Thank you. We're still on the speakerphone, so we'll try to use the speakerphone and use the handheld set as a mic, so remind us if we're talking too softly. We did hates and fears last week, and I think equally important was the stuff on inertia, which I think a lot, from the feedback I've gotten, a lot of people found that really interesting to see the extent to which there is inertia. It's just old habit energy, just things we've been doing so long that we just continue to do them, even though there's not any motive of fear. We act as if we were afraid, or we continue to do the behaviors that we used to do because we feared things. We'll find those even more tonight when we get into desires. A lot of desires for people that have been doing this work a long time are habit energy. But first of all, I didn't put together a list last week about fears or hates. I was very limited in my thinking when I was thinking about hates, because when I said I think most of us are pretty much past our hates, most of us are pretty much past hating people. But I hadn't even considered all the hates about, do we still hate ourselves? Do we still hate being human? Do we hate being fat or thin or tall or short or old or young, or, there's a lot of hates that we might still apply to ourselves, and I think a lot of us have worked through most of those because of our kid work. And although we may dislike those aspects of ourselves, we're usually pretty tolerant and loving towards them now. But I'd love to hear from anybody that found some good hates or good fears, so that we can sort of put them on the list for people that want to continue later. So anybody come up with any fears or hates? Yeah. Use the phone, please. It's behind you, and just push the gray button.
Okay. Oh. I'm getting a dial tone.
I hope not. Are you with us, everybody out there? Are you getting a dial tone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello?
We're not connected then. It dropped us. Sure did. Should not be a dial tone.
Please announce yourself.
I'm glad to see you guys hang tough. We got disconnected again for some reason, but we're back. We were talking about hates.
Should I try pressing the gray button again?
If you want to, yeah. We were talking about hates because I was commenting on the fact that when I thought that most of us were done with our hates, I thought we were done with hating people, but it occurred to me subsequently that there may be a lot of things we still hate, like being human or being unspiritual or being...
This isn't really about hates.
Huh?
Wait.
No, that's all right. No,
Okay.
I'm just saying that, it occurred to me that there were lots of other things to hate other than people. So what I asked was if anybody had some interesting hates or fears that they wanted to share, and Jessie was about to share, and we discovered that she found a dial tone on the telephone. Go ahead, Jess.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a very uncomfortable few days. And, but, you know, then these past 2 days have been really cool. I had some, you know, some movements, but what came up for me is this huge, not that I hadn't had it before, but it was just, I hadn't felt it that strong in a long time, but a fear, sounds kind of silly, but because I'm single, but of divorce, and marriage, I guess, you know, the flip side of it. And, you know, I just be walking around my classroom and there's this huge just fear of it. And it was, you know, totally irrational and obviously out of proportion to anything that was going on. But I just, you know, kept working with it and, you know, worked with Christy and another woman. And it was cool because I feel like I've gotten more to a place of, and I kept reading No Power and Effect and God, the Substance of All Form. And just feel like I've been able to get to, there's a lot less fear about it. Today there hasn't been much, you know, just seeing that it's just a condition, you know, or, you know, marriage, divorce, single, just all of that. And it's so hard to put it all into words. And I don't know what I saw or what I felt, but there was something that was different. The story about the Hawaiian chief, I don't know if you read that story about, you know, the Hawaiian chief was asking about the demonstration of supply in, no one knows? Okay.
Tell us.
Okay. But I can't really remember it offhand, but the Hawaiian chief was trying to learn the demonstration of supply. And again, it's so hard to put it into words, but he realized if he was drowning and he reached for a raft, that the spirit is not in. He said, you know, if he was drowning and he reached for a raft, the raft would save him. But he asked, you know, what if he was drowning and he reached for a bunch of leaves? And he realized that the supply is not, or God is not in the leaves or the raft. That it's in, you know, in the spirit. So it's not in, you know, any effect, any. So that was really, you know, neat when I read that for the 500th time, but, you know, saw something different. And but then I was walking around and, you know, the fear was still there and I couldn't figure it out. And, you know, but I realized, you know, my kid, that ignorant aspect of me hadn't gotten the reassurance or didn't, you know, wasn't integrated. And so today I was doing some writing, you know, that I was in a dark place this morning and, you know, was finally able to tell my kid that ignorant part of me what she wanted to hear. And, you know, it had nothing to do with divorce, nothing to do with marriage or being single. You know, it was just the reassurance that I was able to get her, and, you know, they click, and I felt some kind of more of an integration, and, you know, there was some freedom and some joy and tears. I was at work though, so I couldn't really, you know, break down in tears because a principal could walk in any minute. But so I don't know, there was some movement, and it was fun. So thanks.
Good. Jump in if you want to.
Oh, sure.
All right.
My name is Michael, and what came to me this week was I have some fear. I'm in between consulting jobs right now, so I've had some fear that it's really about surrender to me, but surrender to this whatever's happening, because I really don't. I'm just kind of watching it. And the thought came up, well, what if it doesn't work out the way I want it to work out materialistically? And I realized that I had to drop that. It's just a fear of not having it work out the way I want to, but if it's all God's will, I just gotta let it go. And so that's really what it's really been about, surrender to me. And just knowing that, you know, the Father and I are one, and it's all working out perfectly. And so it's been a really amazing experience, just watching too what the motivations behind our actions. You know, like what we were supposed to do this week. You know, so why am I meditating? Am I meditating to, is it because I want to, or am I meditating because I feel I have to? Am I going to the gym because I want to? Am I going to the gym because I have a fear of gaining weight? So all of these things, I had to, I got a chance to look at all of them, and it was really, really, very insightful. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, did anybody catch themselves, catch their motives being other than they thought they might be? I mean, how are we doing on the statement that every act that's God originated is based in love and every act that's human originated is based in fear? Do we have any counterexamples? I really sort of think that's a pretty good rule, but I keep waiting for somebody to come up with a case where it's not true. So I guess it survives another week, huh?
I can share this, Bridget.
Hi, Bridget.
This week has been an amazing unfoldment in as well. I was working with the questions of the fear and hate and during an exercise I was working quite diligently on asking who and I played it I started it after the class last week and I read a class notes of 2002 that you gave and it went into doubt for me and it had been going into that for a couple weeks now and working with the kid aspect and working with a particular event in my life that took place when I was 17 and really exploring it deeply and from many different angles over the last couple years, but it's coming in now with this obstacle course, and so I've been led to work really diligently on asking who is feeling doubt, who's having doubt, who's questioning, and I did it to the point where I was doing it every second almost, it seems, and then it went on during the night. I was up from 12 till 4 doing it, and then this morning I woke up in it, and it was doing itself. It was doing it. It's been incredible in
work. And when the self-inquiry takes over on its own, then you're really making movement. So that's really good work. And I'm glad I'm off the hook.
I am too.
Yeah, it's easy on both of us. Who else? Well, tonight, let me mark down the time here. Tonight's additional obstacles are the other two lists of Barbara's, the love and desire. It was love, hate, fear, and desire. And I thought hates and fears would be probably easier to do. And love is a funny word because, and when we're talking about, remember these are the 4 lists of things that are keeping you chained to your humanhood. So understand when we say love, we're talking about human love. If you're loving, it's human love. But if love is flowing through you, that is undoubtedly, what is loving itself. And that's not what we're talking about. So when love is flowing through you, or you're overwhelmed with love for something or something like that, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about human love. But it does include most parental love for their children, or childish love for their parents, or love for pets, or stuff like this. It does, in most cases, include that. So take a look at all your loves and see who's loving. And see what the motive is. See what it brings to you. What does loving this person or this dog or this parent or this child bring? What does it bring me? What do I gain out of it? I'm reminded that, I forget who said it, probably Barbara or Herb or somebody. I think Barbara. That spiritual love is characterized by unconditional acceptance. So look at the thing, people, objects, things you think you love, and see if you are ready to unconditionally accept them as they are. Do you love them when they do what you want them to? Do they love you? Do you love them when they're behaving for you? Do you love them when they're bringing you stuff? Or do you just unconditionally love them no matter what? So that's the first one. And anybody have any questions about that, or is there any discussion about that? Do you know how to tell which is which? Grab the phone.
Yeah. Would being attached to something fall under human love?
We'll do attached. Attached is part of desire. We're going to do desire in another 10 minutes or so. And that's the real can of worms. That's why it's last. Desire includes attachments and aversions. And, an aversion is a desire to avoid something. So all that stuff comes in. I'm going to put all that under desires. We'll lump that all together in a few minutes. I've noticed something that's changed in me. I would not say that I'm more loving or less loving, but what I have discovered over the past couple of years that has been growing in me significantly is the number of things which delight me. I'm often delighted by people, and this is absolutely, it's delightful. First of all, it's truly delightful, but it's absolutely clean because they just delight me, and there's no expectation and no anticipation. There's no even of getting into a relationship or having a conversation. I don't even tell people that they delight me, but I'm just finding, like at the AA meetings I go to, for instance, more and more people just delight me with what they say or such like, and so that's certainly not anything that would go on the list. So be aware that that kind of thing can happen. Is there any feedback about that?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Would you be delighted no matter what they did?
Yeah. in that moment. I mean, I'm not delighted because of what they're doing. I'm just delighted with them usually.
But only for that moment.
Yeah, it's everything's in the moment. It's not a long-term thing. You know, more and more and more things delight me, and more and more things delight me more and more. And there's no reason behind that, and it's not. There's no sense of self in that or gain or anything like that. It's fun because it's so clearly absolutely clean. But it's not. You know, I mean, I have no idea whether they could do something in the next minute that would terminate the delight. Quite possibly. Maybe if they stepped on my toe. I don't know, you know. Everything's in the moment. We can't be talking history here. And remember, there's no time, so we can't be talking about past or future. It's just in the moment. Either I'm unconditionally accepting you, or I'm judging you, or I'm ignoring you entirely. I'm not noticing you, but you know, it's what's going on in this moment. And the other one is the can of worms. Desires. And I think that desires and attachments and aversions are really separate, are different, but they're just different words to the same things. Desire, I use the word desire is something that I want to keep or to get. And attachment is probably pretty close to a desire to keep something. You know, I'm attached to things that I have, or the things that are going on or such like. And aversion to me is simply a desire to not have, or a desire to avoid, or, you know, aversion of something. If I feel an aversion towards something, I immediately don't want it in my life or don't want it around. So I did start thinking of desires, and all of these go on the list. Remember, these are the things that keep you human, and that's because all these desires are human things, and only a human being can have them, and a spiritual being doesn't need them. Okay? So, health, I think, is a real easy one for people to desire. To desire health, or strength, or being pain-free, or long life. There's a whole set of desires in there. And if I want to live forever, it means I think I'm Lee. And if I want to be healthy, I think I'm Lee. Or if I'm proud of the fact that I'm healthy, I think I'm Lee. I got to watch out for that one, because Meg was warning me about that the other day. She was in an email. She was talking about she's been brought low by something, and she was wondering whether it was because she's been so successfully healthy for so long that maybe she got a little arrogant behind it. And I said, oh. Okay, so health, strength, being pain-free, long life, wealth, desire for wealth, or even financial independence, I guess. We don't need to go all the way out on the log, on the limb. Power, more power to control things. And so then I threw in psychic powers or spiritual powers. You know, if we get high enough, will we have powers to manifest stuff? How about companionship, friendship, or love? Then I hit intelligence, wisdom, understanding, realization. Any of those? Yeah.
I played around with, I used to always use this line that I read in one of Joel's books that I just loved. It was like, my only desire was to know God aright.
Yeah.
You know? And so I would write that in my journal a lot, you know? And then so, I think it was the last time that you had us look at the desires, and it's like, I had to look at that and I went, oh.
No, that's Christy. Thank you.
Hi, it's Christy. So the one that I was playing around with was the last time, and I continue to play around with this. I had read it in a Joel book a long time ago, was my only desire is to know God aright. So I had to really look at that and really look at it for okay, so if I have a belief that everything is God, okay, and that, like Jesse said earlier, that God is the substance of all form, then that meant I really had to look at my acceptance and my expectation of you, and when I say you, of everything and what is it's going around, going on around me. And I mean, it's very, very subtle. Like I was just watching myself try to help Mike park before we came in here, so if, I really look at that, then, accepting what is for what is going on, but here I am like trying to help him park. Like he is perfectly capable of parking by himself, but it's just so subtle, that I can really believe in what very high spiritual lofty principles, I can really get those and really, have a deep understanding, but it's the daily practice, the moment to moment practice.
Absolutely.
In the very small things that's what gets me. It's like, okay, So
Absolutely.
that's my work.
Yeah, and that's why I started this whole thing out with talking about inertia, because there's so much of that. I mean, you're perfectly aware that Michael doesn't need help, and that he probably doesn't want help,
Yes.
and that you're probably no better at parking than he is, yada, 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 yada. And yet, you have a habit of of offering help because of some child aspect that you've undoubtedly resolved by now, but the inertia is still there. It's still trundling forward all by itself. And there's just so much of that in all of us all the time.
I have a question too. It's a step back probably. I was reading that Horizons of Consciousness, and Joel said that we should always fear that we're not on the path. Because it keeps, if we don't fear that and if we ever get to a place where we think we're okay, then he says we're probably not on the path.
Well, I wonder who he was talking to.
Lorraine, yeah, okay, yeah. I was wondering,
And what level she was at when he was talking to her. Certainly, wise spiritual seekers always have a spiritual counselor that they run their ship past.
because here's why he was saying it, because if we're supposed to die daily, then we're always dying to our humanhood, and we're always trying to get rid of we're always trying to move away from the humanhood, or so that's why we
Move
want to
away or accept.
Well, it depends. How you're looking at it, obviously. So anyway, this is a side thing anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
That certainly is the game, is in this moment, what am I doing? That's the almost insurmountable thing, is the real inertia or the real habit energy is the habit of being distracted and thinking about something else, or having our mind wander, or thinking about not something else, thinking about something, or paying attention to something, or daydreaming, or our minds wandering off and taking us with them. That's the real habit energy. It's just the chatter that goes on that prevents us from being here now, that takes us out of being Zen masters, take us out of being present. And of course, when we're not present, then we're going to fall into all these old inertias that we behave the way we've always behaved, because we've conditioned ourselves to behave these ways. And most of them are based in resistance behaviors from a long time ago. So That's a good one. Now, how many of us desire recognition or acclaim or applause in varying degrees? How many of us desire to have good looks or sex? And then I threw in some aversions.
Good looks what?
Aversion. How many of us have aversion to governments or politicians or lawyers or authorities or needy people or unhealthy people, or fill out that list of the people that might come to you and require some of your time or energy or effort or money or something, or I don't know, anybody in authority. How many of us have aversions to, when I was thinking about aversions, I bet most of our aversions are to types of people, or I bet many of our aversions are to types of people rather than to things, so keep that in mind when you're doing the list. And attachments, I was listening to a Herb tape today, and he was talking about barriers, of course. A new tape that I've never heard before that Dulcie sent me last week, and I'm listening to it this afternoon, and it's about barriers to enlightenment. His comment is, the attachment to the human sense of life, attachment to your body. Are you attached to being in the body? Are you attached to being human and having the good human stuff? Some of us may not be attached to being in our body, but others of us might be. I'm looking at dear Adele when I say that. You're probably pretty free of that attachment. Yeah. So, there's a bunch of places we can start. I want to say about desires, separate desires from preferences. Because we're all going to have preferences. If somebody says, what kind of ice cream do you want? And you choose chocolate over vanilla, well, that's not a desire. It's a preference, for whatever reason. So drop the preferences. Those aren't desires. We all appear to be going to do something. Do you want to stay home today, or do you want to go to lunch here, or do you want to go to lunch there? All this sort of stuff. We all have to do something, and so everything we do is in some sense a preference because we've chosen to do it rather than everything else on the list. So leave preferences out. Leave the low-level stuff out. Desires, we're talking about the things that you really want, that you're willing to spend energy, that you care about whether or not you have, okay? I don't care whether I get vanilla or strawberry ice cream. As long as I get my ice cream, I'm okay. But if you're attached to it, if you have attachment to it, then it should be on the list. And if you have an attachment to avoiding something, then it belongs on the list. So jump in, ask questions. Expand the list.
So we have these desires. Say, for instance, smoking cigarette, would that be a desire?
If you want a cigarette, it would.
Okay. And I haven't been smoking for a while now.
And that's a desire.
But it comes up now and then that I really want one. Mm-hmm. But I know if I do it, like I was telling you today, it'll set me back. But then I got to go through the same loop again. Mm-hmm. See, what do you keep on watching these desires, and then eventually it drops away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you have a desire to quit smoking, just as you have a desire to smoke.
But I'm not giving it a lot of energy. I mean, it comes up now and then.
That's the whole point. And it diminishes and it diminishes. And but the fact that you have a desire to smoke indicates that you're human. because you undoubtedly want nicotine to put down the glitch, so you've got a little bit of script going on. And the desire to quit smoking is clearly human, because only a human being would think that non-smoking was better than smoking or healthier or what have you. So clearly, if you have a desire to quit smoking, you have a desire for health or a desire for freedom or from the whatever, or a desire to get away from the smell of it, or so those smoking and not smoking are both human.
How about the desire, like Christy was saying, the desire to be clear? So then I meditate, especially being on, between jobs here, I have a lot of free time. So I find, okay, I want to get clear, so I'm going to meditate.
Well, there's a great book by Trungpa Chokya, or whatever his name is. I can never remember his name. Pema Chodron's master. He's got a great book on spiritual materialism, in which he talks about how we get more and more sophisticated until finally all of our desires are for things spiritual rather than things material. And his point is that it's no different.
But yeah, exactly.
Except it's higher. But Joel is absolutely right. Desiring to know God aright is probably the best of all possible desires, but it's a desire. That's why through realization, the desire to be realized is a barrier, is an obstacle.
But don't they all have that barrier? Don't they all have that desire till it drops away at the end?
Absolutely.
Doesn't that keep you on the path?
There's nothing wrong with desires. Nobody came into this program that was happy, joyous, and free, and on a cloud nine. The pink clouders don't come here. People come here because of financial problems, or because of physical problems, or because of the death of loved ones, or because of really heavy lists of things they love, hate, fear, and desire. That's what starts people on the work, and there's nothing, and that's quite appropriate. And I'll say again, this class is not about stopping these behaviors. It's not about there's anything wrong with desires. It's about be aware that these are keeping you chained to humanhood, in the sense that be aware that these are human desires. If you want something, you're human. Even trying to become enlightened probably slows the process more than relaxing and not trying to become enlightened. But not even thinking about it probably is worse. Who knows how that works?
Pretty paradox.
Sure, of course. Clearly people don't become enlightened who don't work at becoming enlightened, but working at becoming enlightened prevents you from becoming enlightened. So go figure. Right?
Question.
Yes.
Could Meg have truthfully said she'd prefer not to get sick?
Can't hear you.
She asked if Meg could truthfully have said she preferred not to get sick.
And left it at that.
I don't know the answer to that, obviously.
Well, okay. Could someone truthfully say that?
I prefer not to get sick.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get sick, then it's just happening.
Right. That would be the ideal situation. But if I were proud of not getting sick and thinking it showed my spiritual acumen,
Okay.
then I'm setting myself up for and that was what her comment was about. She was suspicious that she might be slightly prideful about her 80 years of success at not being sick. Or not, you'd have to ask her. I'm sure she'd tell you the absolute truth. We could all say that it proves the point, so I have to be not sick, but that's nonsense too. Nothing wrong with desires, just be aware of them. It's just a measure of humanhood. And there's nothing you can do about them, except see them clearly. When you clearly see that striving to become enlightened is a barrier, then you will probably stop striving and become enlightened. Because in order to clearly see that, you have to be so close, so ready to become enlightened that all you have to do is get out of your own way. Or not. Byron Katie's the greatest gift in the world. What else?
This is Adele. This was really a fun assignment, and what I realized was, as Chrissy was saying, is that, for example, with fears, it's not what I say I'm afraid of, but to work backwards from the behavior.
Yes, what you act afraid of. That's
right.
Uh-huh.
And then to look at whether it's just inertia. Am I really afraid of that, or is it just habit energy? And that was a really fun process. And then I realized the ritual that I had behind it. It was funny, but the ritual that I had behind this, some of the fears, like one of them is Jay, something happening to Jay, and that just, that's just kind of a visceral one, and it's just still there. And so whenever he leaves, I have to kiss him because it's going to somehow magically make him safe. And it's just funny to watch these things, with my cat. The afraid that something's going to happen, so I count the years that she's still going to be alive, and I was so struck by the magical kind of ritual, and I can see how it is with things that I'm attached to. I'm just kind of ticking through. So, looking at the behavior and kind of this week I was really hip to all of that. Mm-hmm. And when I went to kiss him goodbye, I think, what's this for? Am I really wanting to kiss my husband, or am I going to make, the voodoo happen? So it's just really cool to be aware of that, and it really released. So, okay.
Cool, thanks.
This is Tree, and I was driving home from class last Wednesday night, and I heard sirens and saw a fire truck, paramedics coming down the road, and so I pulled all the way over to the right, and 4 cars went right by me. And I actually heard myself say out loud, I hate that. Mm-hmm. On the way home from the class where we were working on the hate, and we had thought that maybe we didn't have a lot of hates left, and so I just had to laugh. But at the same time, it made me see right there how those little things keep me attached to my humanhood. And then I was thinking about it later, and I was thinking, if I hadn't have been so attached in that moment, it might have just been that I was driving along and I pulled over, and the other 4 people in the cars were, that maybe I was what is, and each one of them was what is, and we're all one, and then all the people in the fire truck were one, and all the paramedics were one, and it didn't matter what order any of them went in or where they were going, or it was maybe it could have just been all oneness, and I could have pulled over and then got back and nothing would have mattered. So that might have been what it would have been like if there hadn't been an aggravated tree.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone who thought it should be different.
Right.
Oh, darn it. Yeah. If you're having a reaction, you're human. I still think Robert was so dead on. He said the only reliable measure of spiritual progress is reaction. Spiritual progress is accompanied by a diminution of reaction. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I love you all. Hope to see you next week. Enjoy your evening.